Welcome back to How We Felt About. Today, Eric and I are going to tell you how we felt about a couple of different movies, or more accurately, we're going to tell you how we felt about one movie, and Eric's going to talk about another movie that I didn't go to because I thought it looked bad. And we'll see what Eric thought about it. So the first thing we're going to talk about today is Ready Player One, which just came out this last week, and luckily we're able to talk about it just after release this time. Yeah. Sometimes with the way these drop, we have to wait a couple weeks, and that sucks, especially with big genre stuff and superhero things.
Yeah.
This one we get to talk about just after it came out, so that's pretty exciting. Ready Player One, based on a book that I did not read, but you did.
I loathe.
And you didn't like it at all.
I believe it is Twilight for geeks. It's really poorly written, like real dumbed down, and so like everyone's kind of read it, and I think it's really pandery. My biggest
now, you know, it's beloved in a lot of nerd communities. You're going to get a lot of flack for saying that, I'm sure.
My biggest issue is the
prose sounded really hard to get through to me, and that's why I didn't look at it. After you told me that it has like tense change issues, and that I think you said that, right?
Yeah, it's tense change issues,
and that it just you made it sound like it wasn't really a piece of literature so much as a thing that, this is just what it sounded like from what you said, so much as a thing that really kind of wished it was a movie or something.
Well, and it also
but I don't know.
My biggest issue with that book is that
it's just about the references, right? It's just
my biggest issue with that book is about the references, because it's a book that pretends to be for geeks but feels the need to hold your hand with everything. It's a thing that'll be like, frack, I said, referencing one of my favorite TV shows of all time, Battlestar Galactica. That's how the whole book is. It has to explain everything, because you might not get it, and I feel like that loses the entire point and fun of this idea. And also, I think the book is kind of self-hating and really cynical, and I think the movie feels... Because the movie, the writer is written, or the writer is of the book is one of the writers on the movie. It almost feels like a final draft. It almost feels like he didn't consider it finished and thought he could improve upon it.
It is cool that if you think it was improved upon, that his name is on it, because that means he had input in that, and that's cool if he helped to improve his own work.
I'm also a big fan of Fanboys, which he wrote.
Yeah, so you're not down on this guy.
No. I mean, I didn't read
like
his
that
next
movie too.
I didn't read his next book, but I watch Fanboys a lot. I really like Fanboys.
Yeah. So I think one of the things that's really neat about this movie is just how super old school Spielberg it is.
It feels like a Spielberg movie.
That was the sense I got from the trailers, and was hoping that that's the experience I was going to get. And it's a love letter to that era and his own catalog.
And it's cool because he's so important to that era that he gets to make this movie.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel like, well, I'm gonna make the thing that's gonna make, like this is back now, I guess I'll make a thing. It seems like he really did want to make this movie, and he was having fun, maybe going back to his earlier self.
Yeah, and I think it's really nostalgic in the right kind of way.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree.
Because it's not just nostalgic in, like, here's a bunch of references to all these things that you know from when you were a kid or whatever. And I mean, like, obviously, it has a lot of that, but I think all that stuff is really well integrated to a story where it ends up feeling like it just makes sense for all of that to be there. Well, so I was really impressed with that.
And I can't explain the Spielberg, I'm trying to, I can't think of where I'm not like, it's like these Spielberg movies. There's just something about it that feels like the late 70s, 80s Spielberg.
I feel like I can throw a few things out. Structurally, it feels like those movies.
Yes. Yeah. I mean that's, I guess, the big thing is it and it's that non-ironic, just straightforward presentation of story.
Yeah.
Where, like, you have the woo moments, and they don't have to be undercut by anything. You have the funny moments, and you have, like, it feels like a movie at a time in a certain way.
And one of the ways in which the Spielberg movie is a thing I could actually use as a criticism, I guess, which is, I like these characters, but they never fully 100% come alive to me, most of them. Weirdly, the character who I most care to, I most come to care about, and who comes most alive, is the one who's dead the whole movie. The creator of the game.
Great.
Because, first of all, that actor is wonderful, and he's playing this really over-the-top, socially awkward guy who I come to really appreciate and kind of feel for with how he was just trying to find his place in the world, and he ends up creating a world for himself to escape from, and accidentally helps to turn people into what he wishes he didn't have to be. I love all of that. But because it's just his world and we're living in it, we come to know so much about him, and I feel like he is incredibly fleshed out. I love that. But like our main protagonist, I like him, but he's kind of generic in the way Spielberg heroes tend to be kind of generic. Like,
I loved the girl, but I think that's mostly performance. Like, I don't know if I love that character. I was just like, wow, she's great.
Well, I was really excited to find out she was in this because she plays a really interesting character in Bates Motel, and she seemed perfect for this, and she's great, yeah.
I mean, T.J. Miller steals the movie with Iraq.
He's hysterical. He's hysterical.
We got a bunch of pops in for this movie at work the day after we saw this. And
is that the character's name?
Yeah,
that's awesome.
His name is Iraq.
That's hilarious.
And so we got all the pops in for Ready Player One, and I'd come in, and I was like, oh, I saw Ready Player One, and I really liked it, and you know this and that, and they're like, well, we got the pops. Do you want any of them? I was like, I don't care about that much. And I saw Iraq, and I was like, oh, I might want the Iraq pop. He's awesome.
He's got that exact same kind of dry wit that he does, where he just doesn't freaking care about what anybody thinks of him, and he'll say anything.
And that's kind of who he is, at least as a comedian. I want to say
as a person. Comedian, yeah.
But like, I think everything I've ever seen him in, he's like that not IT crowd, Silicon Valley. His character's
well, the sense I get is that, one, obviously he's that in Deadpool, and the sense I get is that they must have let him improv quite a bit.
He had to have.
Because
and I don't remember that character from the book.
He feels like he's almost reading from a different script, in a good way. I mean, it's well integrated. But I'm impressed with actually how well that's that's connected to the very by the book script that they are clearly working from.
Yeah, no, he.
I think the whole supporting cast works actually.
And I like the bad guy. I kind of love that the bad guy is he's
Bane's henchman from Dark Knight Rises, and that guy keeps playing parts like this, and it's hilarious. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, but it totally works with this material.
Oh yeah, and he's really good.
I kind of facetiously really like that the villain of this movie is a lot of people on the internet. They're going to tell you how great this movie is. Like, I kind of really like that. He is a corporate person who pretends to like all the geeky things because it's profitable and it's what people want to hear.
Yeah.
I really like that. But he feels like an 80s villain. We're like, he's just so big and over the top. He's just so sinister.
And he is kind of two-dimensional.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how he got the way
works.
he is. There are a couple of places
he's entirely profit-driven.
They make it really clear that he's supposed to be the symbol of losing your humanity because he's all about the material and he's entirely materialistic, and he wants people to get caught up in this game and not actually live in the real world. And the irony is he has no interest in the game, but he's but he's completely lost his humanity in a different way than someone who maybe does that just because they never actually live in the real. Like he actually lives in the real world, but he's lost himself.
I like that with the creator and with him, you kind of have these two polar opposites of what I think is kind of the discussion of the movie, though never actually stated, which is art versus business.
Yeah,
and he is the complete. I don't care what any of this says, means, looks like, people like it, so let's just say that we like it too and we're going to sell it to them. And then the creator is entirely art-driven and does not care about anything else. And the ending is kind of somewhere in the middle. I really like that we have kind of two extremes of the art versus business kind of debate.
And I like that too because it's a big movie that isn't pretending like it's not there to make money. Right? Like, it's trying to tell a cool story, and it is about some stuff, and there's some good social commentary there, but it also knows that it's a vehicle for profit, of course.
But it's also the escapism and the entertainment and all that. Like I think
it is in a lot of ways.
I think in never stopping and talking about it, it's so much about all of that.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's weird how thoughtful it allows itself to be about that stuff, but it could have gotten heavy-handed about it. It isn't. It could have gotten real heavy-handed about anti-corporate. I think it's just this exaggerated, horrible big business thing that we get a lot in movies like this, but it's not against business. It's against this kind of taking advantage of people.
Which is really important right now. Like I love where it's like we can put this many ads before someone gets a seizure.
Oh yeah, that was fantastic.
I really like all that where it's not anti making money off of the things that you make and love and things like that, but it is anti like
No, and it,
like prostituting them.
It is talking about how you kind of have to find a balance with those things.
Yeah.
Sure. And I'll spoil a little bit these days on how we felt about. We're a little bit looser on this. We suspect that most of the people listening to this would probably watch this movie. We won't tell you everything, but by the end, it's very much about that balance, where it's we easily could have oversimplified this to the point of making it a like tear down of the system movie, and it is that to a degree, but like we're at the end we just go, yeah, let's just shut the game down, it's bad for people. Like the Oasis is a really cool thing that this brilliant and passionate guy built, that there is a place for, but it can't be all you do, and it shouldn't take the place of living in the real world, and at the end, it's about finding that balance between actually living your life and having that escape, and you can do both.
I agree.
So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, it's as
I love what it has to say about loyalty programs.
Yes.
That got me.
As someone that hates the book, and someone who, when I saw the trailers, I rolled my eyes. And I went into this being like, yeah, I'm going to see this because I'm supposed to talk about this, but like, I'm not excited for this movie. Like, it looks like it could be okay if it gets far enough away from the book, and all of that. I walked out, I really like this movie.
That's really cool.
It kind of blew me away.
And I know there's a lot of folks that love the book that don't care for this that much, because I think they were hoping it would be even more referencey, just in, like, the references, a lot of them are very buried, and I really like that because it's more story-driven, and it doesn't feel the need to talk about all that stuff like you were talking about, where it isn't holding your hand with any of that stuff at all. And also, it's nice that, like, I think it's really smart in its strategy of getting everybody on board, and then going to town with a bunch of references that you may or may not get, and you won't be confused if you don't get them. So right away, it throws a couple of major things at you that everybody in the audience will know, so they can go, oh cool, I get this is for me. Like, there's a huge Star Trek reference at the beginning that everybody's going to get, and I think it is intentional.
We couldn't stop laughing.
We could not, yeah, it's hilarious. But I think it's intentional of how completely in your face and huge all of the symbols are in that shot, like with what it is. And it makes a lot of sense within the story and in the flashback we're getting there. But then after that, we keep more and more burying them where you really wish you could pause the frame so that you could see.
There was so many where like somebody walks past the screen, I'm like, was that? Oh, look, it's that person.
And it's really cool, but it's never important that you know what the stuff is. And the ones that are integrated into the plot, into the story that actually function as part of a plot point, are given to you, but not in an obnoxious, heavy-handed way.
No, like she drives the Akira motorcycle, and like it's not like the movie has to stop. And this is how I felt about a lot of the book.
But I'm thinking mostly like the Atari game thing in the third act.
Yeah,
like they need to come out and tell you what that game is and why we're playing it, and like why the key they're looking for is associated with that game. But I didn't feel like I was being pandered to. It's just that's. Like, if you don't know it, you wouldn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
So that you did have to get.
Well, with the Akira bike, what I liked about it is it's treated like it's make and model. It's like, what is like what is that bike? And they just kind of read off the specs, like, and they say it's from Akira.
It's from this movie.
Yeah, the most influential anime movie of all time.
From Akira, yeah.
But like, I really like that. I really liked that there were very few things where we stopped and we're like, look, it's this thing. It just all existed in the world like it would.
And then when there were things that were, especially things that were kind of obscure, but are things that you know really well or you're a fan of, you get to feel more like, or at least I did, more like these moments are for me, and I get to go like, oh, I know there's people in here that don't know what that is. And that's kind of fun. Like it's all encompassing and for everybody at the same time, as there are these fun kind of, I don't mean this in a bad way, but these fun kind of elitist moments where it's like, tee-hee, I get that.
But there's references.
Isn't that fun?
But I think what's smart about it is it's for everyone, in that everyone has something in this movie that they're gonna be like, oh, it's that thing.
Yeah.
Like people...
And it's not just video games, and it's not just sci-fi and massive genre stuff. I mean, like, I gotta get my mom to see this because she's a huge Stephen King fan, and like the Shining thing will kill her.
Yeah, no, the Shining thing's wonderful. There's a lot.
We lost our minds.
Yeah, it was really funny. I'll talk about the moment that gave me like head to toe goosebumps. I have described to people as like the most excited I have been in a film since I saw The Avengers, which is there's a live action Gundam that fights a Mechagodzilla, and I've got issues with Mechagodzilla, but that's not important to that. Everything else is an actual design. Mechagodzilla is like their riff on Mechagodzilla. There are 3 Mechagodzilla designs. Pick one. I don't understand why they had to make their own. But a Gundam fights...
They did that with nothing else.
Yeah. A Gundam fights a Mecha... And it's very distinctly the original Gundam. It's the RX-78 Gundam. A Gundam fights a Mechagodzilla, and, like, that's cool, but, like, I'm not excited because Gundam's fighting Mechagodzilla. Like, that crossover thing isn't what's getting me excited. It's, Gundam's never been live action. Well, that's not true, but that doesn't count. That was a Canadian-produced, awful, like, B movie. But I never thought... I never thought, and I continue to never think, I will ever get anything like that. I will never get a Gundam movie that's just Gundam, like it exists like that, live action. And I was... It's the reason I saw the movie. Like there's a point...
That's interesting.
When I saw the trailer where just Gundam jumps up in the air, and I head to toe goosebumps, I was like, oh, Gundam's in it. It was just such a... Because it's something I never thought I'd see. It's not just something I've seen before mixed with something else. It's something I never thought I'd get to see.
And you're going to be in the minority of people for whom that was the most exciting thing about the trailers.
I'm sure.
And, like, don't they do an incredibly good job of having plenty of images and iconography that are things that everybody's seen.
Yeah.
And then a bunch of stuff that the majority of the audience is going to have no idea what that is. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. Well, and we walked out of the movie, and you said, like, I think there's more things in this for you than there is for me.
Yeah.
Like, there's just a lot of really fun, like, little things. And I'm sure I missed so much. I'm sure if I watch again, I'm like, oh, and there's that, and oh, and there's that. I think Lion Cat's in this movie from Saga. I'm pretty sure the big green cat thing is Lion Cat.
Yeah.
It's either that or...
it might have been He-Man.
I don't think so.
Isn't that lion green?
Yeah, but he wears armor.
Yeah.
I think it's either...
I don't know why you'd have that without the armor.
It's either Lion Cat or it's the thing from Watchmen.
Oh, Babastis?
Yeah, it might be Babastis. I don't think it had the antennae, so I think it's Lion Cat, and if it is, that's super cool.
That's nuts if that's there.
But yeah.
But it's just, you're always complaining about how we like to pretend like things are obscure and deep pulls when they're not. Like,
or we do an obscure deep pull, but we make sure everyone gets it.
Yeah.
We have to hold your hand with it. So you feel like you also get this thing. I think this movie's able to do both. It's able to have the obscure things because Batman's there. Like, I can have Buckaroo Banzai because Batman's standing right next to him, and nobody else feels lost.
And everybody's comfortable. Yeah. Like,
and I'm sure there's video game stuff, I don't know what they are. There was a lot of things I'm like, I don't know if that's something or if that's original.
No, of course. Yeah, well, and that's fun because there's so much original stuff that I'm not sure if it's a thing that I've never seen before.
Well, and I was worried at the beginning. I was like,
find some research.
I was worried. I was a little worried at the beginning. I'm like, so all of the main characters are going to be original things, and everything else is going to be referenced. I don't think that's true. I think it's integrated. And it's also possible that is the case, but I don't know what everything is.
Well, and we know that you can mod things to be licensed material, and that's fun. I wonder in that world, considering that it's a really heavily business-run kind of world where like business has their hands in everything. I wonder like who owns the licenses for certain things and how they get all that. Like maybe like we're not given this, and I'm just guessing at stuff. But we were talking earlier in the omnibus about how Disney didn't play ball with this movie, and it feels weird not to have anything from Disney at all because they own so much, and they own so much really massive geeky stuff. There's no Star Wars. There are mentions of Star Wars things, which is nice that they got those in there.
Yeah, they mention enough things from like Disney things where like you don't ever see it, but it feels like it's just off screen. Like they mentioned Millennium Falcon, and so like you're like, okay, Millennium Falcon does exist in this world.
So that's smart, but it's really weird to have that race and not have a light cycle from Tron and stuff like that.
It's also really sad that Star Star Wars isn't in it because you know if this had been before the Disney merger, it would have been.
Yeah,
because Lucas and Spielberg are tight.
Yeah, and so that's just kind of unfortunate. It's weird there's no Indiana Jones references.
That's
unless
true.
Unless I missed them.
But Disney owns that too.
Everywhere. Oh, they do
because they bought Lucasfilm.
I forgot about that. Well, yes, of course. Yeah, so they wouldn't have. So then I'm thinking, and again,
Disney is the villain of this movie. Is what we're saying.
Not the villain, but that they not only didn't play ball with the movie, they don't play ball with the Oasis, and so like they still exist and they own everything that's not in the Oasis, like everything, and everything else is in the Oasis. That's my guess. That's my fan canon notion.
Sure.
Eric.
Except that we know that the Millennium Falcon exists.
Well, it might exist. That people have heard of it. We don't know if it's in the game.
He says you can have the. If you join my team, you can have the Millennium Falcon.
I forgot about that.
No, that's what I like about it, is that.
Okay, well then my thing doesn't work.
I think it cretes the illusion that those things do exist in this universe.
In that world.
We just can't show them because Disney is the villain of this movie.
But I wanted to say real quick that. Like sometimes I think it's important to reel things back and make it clear what we're talking about. That it isn't that we're elitist snobs and we need things to just speak to us and leave the rest of the audience out. I don't need or want a movie that I feel like is for me, that where I'm seeing like everybody else confused and wanting to get up and get out of the theater because gosh darn it, they shouldn't be there anyway. I don't.
No, I want that because Buckaroo Banzai I think is the perfect movie.
Yeah, but I'm just saying. Me personally,
no, I
don't have that. I'm impressed that this movie is able to give us that stuff without leaving people out.
No, I'm not.
And it proves that you can do that.
I'm not anti like the Easter egg thing. I don't like that we treat things that aren't deep pulls like they're deep pulls, and I don't like that if we do a deep pull, we have to make sure everyone's in on the thing. I like that this movie's able to...
you to play fair with your audience and give us a little bit of credit.
And I'm sure... And the thing that I love about this is I'm sure there are things other people noticed I didn't. I'm sure there's things that they're and that's this from this, and that's this from this, and I just didn't get them. And I love that, because it feels like, in being exclusionary kind of, in a way, it's all inclusive.
Yeah.
Everyone will find something that they didn't think was going to be in this movie that they'll see and be like, oh, that's that thing.
But not in that horrible, we have all these disparate elements that don't come together, so there's something there for everyone, but there's actually nothing for anyone.
Yeah.
It's not that, because we're not talking about story stuff, we're just talking about
the world and all the
superficial, just objects and characters and things that are part of this world. Like, the Oasis is the device it should be in order to tell a story.
Mm-hmm. Now, I don't think... Here's the thing, is I think you can take all the references out, and it's a fine movie.
Yeah.
I would not have liked the movie as much as I did.
No, I agree.
But you take everything out, it still works as a movie.
Yeah.
Once you get rid of all the references, it's still a fine movie.
Well, and what I like about, and I said this before we went in, hoping that this would be what the movie was, and I think it is, it gives it more credibility, because if this was the future and you had a game like this that like everyone was playing and they were trying to escape the real world in order to go to this place, they would, if they were able to get the licenses, they would put licensed stuff in it.
Yeah, or you'd mod it yourself.
And so usually a thing like this looks really generic.
Yeah.
Because it has to, usually by necessity. The fact that we were able to get all those references, like, I feel like they took a thing, I don't mean to harp too much on the whole reference thing, but that is what...
It's the selling point of the movie.
It's the selling point of the movie,
and it's a big part of the film.
And I'm really...
In the experience itself.
I'm really impressed that it's as sophisticated about that stuff as it is. Because
Yeah.
it sounds like the book was kind of, maybe, I didn't read it, but it sounds like it might have been more of a, cookie cutter structure in order to have an excuse to have a bunch of reference. And maybe the story is great, but it seems like the whole reverential humor thing is the starting place. Okay, what kind of a world can we make up where we would be able to have all that stuff? It feels secondary in this.
Well, and it's also I had a point building off that dealt with the book and the...
Sorry.
Well, and the big thing when they said that Spielberg was making this book was, I immediately was like regardless of how I felt about the book, that's not going to happen. Even if I love this book, it's just going to be a generic sci-fi thing, and the entire point of that book is references. No way will you be able to get enough references that feels like it's worth.
And they nailed that.
Yeah, no. It seemed like everyone except for Disney showed up to play.
Yeah, because it's also cool because it's not just stuff that the studio has access to.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
it's not just the Warner Brothers, archives.
They clearly were able to get others. Oh, right, like Lego Batman.
Yeah. No, they were able. And stuff that you wouldn't think immediately, like Japanese things like Gundam and Akira.
Well, and like Greatest American Hero is referenced.
Yeah.
What?
Prominently referenced.
Yeah, that's really weird.
There's a lot of really fun stuff like that, and I like that there are things that I don't think they either could get the exact licenses to and things like that, but a lot of it's represented. There's posters or various things where well, this wasn't in the movie, but here's a poster
Nintendo
for
Powers and stuff.
Yeah, there's no Nintendo stuff.
Even though Nintendo's not doing stuff in this, or giving the Mario and stuff to actually be in the Oasis, I'm glad that they had. That they had magazines and stuff lying around, because you would.
Well, and for people that do love the book or just like the book or read the book, period. One of the things I think is really cool is with the challenges, at least with the second and third challenge, they're altered, but there is a reference to what it is in the book.
That's really interesting.
The first one, or the second challenge, is you play through, you have to speak line for line War Games, the movie War Games. They don't do that, but they go to a movie theater and on the marquee is War Games. And then the third one, it's Joust in the book. Joust is prominently displayed on the screen. The Atari game Joust is prominently displayed on the screen. I think that's really cool. As weird Easter eggs for people that love the book.
What I loved about this, what I loved about the challenges was that it was more about getting into the head of the creator than it was about proving your geek worth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, to complete all of the challenges,
you had to fully understand this guy and how he felt about his life.
You had to share his philosophy to a certain degree.
Yeah, but you also had
You were worthy.
Yeah, but what I love is, and this is part of why I like this character, is that he's Willy Wonka, and in all the way to the end, the giving back the everlasting gobstopper is in this movie, because you get to the end and you have to not sign the papers so that you don't make the same mistake he did with his business partner. So you not only have to be, the way you prove that you're worthy is to show him that you're going to not just learn from his successes but his failures. He wants you to be better than him. I love that.
Yeah, me too. Can I talk about my one complaint that you don't agree with or care about? But I've also, in this discussion, figured out a possible counter to my own complaint.
Oh, cool. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So
yeah, you have an issue with the first challenge. You think it's too easy.
I think it's too easy. I also, for me personally, thought it would have been way cooler if it was a challenge from the book, which is...
And I just didn't read that, so I don't have that.
There's a very famous D&D module called Tomb of Terror that's insanely difficult, and there's just a literal version you have to get through an already insanely difficult D&D module. I personally would have loved that. And I think the first challenge is too easy, and it is that kind of referencing thing right up front. It's here's all these cards you know. And maybe you needed that. Maybe,
but again,
maybe
I think that's smart to get everybody in.
Yeah. And it's also the biggest... I mean, it's not the biggest set piece, but it's the biggest set piece for a while.
Yeah, it is.
As far as action goes, because I wouldn't consider the Shining thing a set piece.
I would.
Okay. Well,
how's it not a set piece?
I guess you're right.
We're in that location for 15 minutes.
Yeah. I just mean it's not a big action-y, I mean, I guess it kind of... I don't know. It feels different to me than the beginning and the big battle.
It's of a different genre because by necessity we're going to a lot of different kinds of genres. But I mean, we do that whole movie compressed in 10 or 15 minutes, and we do all the action scenes from that movie.
And the other thing is, I may have missed it. It may be there, but I also didn't see Tomb of Terror in the movie. So here's a possible counter-argument for me just saying, it should be that.
Well, and let's also say real quick, one of your things when we talked about this earlier was that it's too easy because you have to... I guess we're just spoiling this movie. You have in order to complete that challenge, instead of doing the race forward, you have to drive backwards, and you seem to think that people should have figured that out already.
Yeah, I don't know. There's just something about it. It might be different on the second viewing. On the first viewing, I was really?
There's a wall behind you, and he calls it a race. And that would tell you're supposed to actually race.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it's as easy as you're making it out to be. I don't know who would actually think of that on their own without going to the archive and learning.
Yeah, I'm not sure. watching it, I was like, that feels really easy. It doesn't feel like you earned that.
But here's the thing, if I may, and I'm not trying to insult you personally when I say this, but you turned to me and you complained about that before we knew everything, and I think maybe you just got that stuck in your craw, because as it continued, we got more about it, and like I was reserving judgment, and once I knew everything about how we got to it, it kind of made sense to me. I don't know, like...
Yeah. And maybe I'm just like, I really want a D&D thing.
Sure, absolutely.
No, okay,
and I might have had that had I read the book, too, so I don't know.
Probably not. I mean, you're not a D&D guy. Like, that just, from me, would have been really...
No, but I might have pictured this really cool set piece that we didn't get to see.
On the other hand...
But yeah,
here's a potential counter argument. Not for the race thing, but for why it's not D&D.
Yeah.
There's no Hasbro. We don't get Transformers, G.I. Joe, My Little Pony, any of that.
Yeah.
So maybe Hasbro didn't play ball. Hasbro owns...
I get that.
We also don't get Magic the Gathering, I don't think.
Yeah, but what's weird about... Yeah, that's strange. You would have expected some of that. But we talk about Millennium Falcon, but you never see it. But you know what though? They like I said, they do like posters for Nintendo, because
I think there's a D&D poster somewhere.
I was gonna say there's a box. There's three or four D&D things, I think. But maybe that doesn't tell us anything if they were able to put Nintendo posters up.
Yeah. I think.
Okay.
Thinking about it now, I'm like, maybe they just couldn't. Maybe Hasbro didn't want anything to do with
Also,
the movie.
you do have to throw Paramount a bone, because they never let anyone do anything with Star Trek.
Yeah.
And they only got the one thing, and I don't know, maybe they did that without their permission, but all that iconography, I doubt it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right. I'm sure there's... I bet you there are other little Star Trek things that we didn't notice.
Oh, I bet. Although they must have been really far in the background, because I'm a pretty big Trek guy. I feel like I probably noticed it, but I think Spielberg's clout has a lot to do with all that.
I agree.
I mean, we're really lucky that he made this.
Yeah, a lesser director, and I don't mean quality, I mean of stature in Hollywood.
Yeah, sure.
I don't think they could have...
And it would have had to have been this late.
Like, if Kevin Smith got the rights to this, it would have been a much lamer movie as far as the licenses go.
Yeah, absolutely.
It could have been just a good movie. I'm not saying it wouldn't have been. I'm saying the clout that he carries is not what Spielberg has.
But yeah, my final thoughts on this, I really appreciated the optimism of the film. I like that it feels like a pseudo-dystopian future, but I mean, like, it's not all bad. It feels like a future we could pull ourselves out of, but it's bleaker than what we have right now, and I buy that so many people are trying to escape into this world, but I like that I like that it's not too sappy about it, but I buy that by the end you can have your cake and eat it too with all that. And I like that we didn't talk about this at the risk of talking again too much about references. I appreciate that you have all these people that talk as if they have nostalgia for these properties that they weren't even born for yet, because so much of the society is about getting into this guy's head because of the contest. And again, that's very Willy Wonka. Like, everybody's trying to get the golden ticket. It's great. I wonder if, like, does the book read that much like we're almost readapting Willy Wonka? Because that really is what this is.
Yes, except we're far more, like, cynical about the creator.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The big thing that this movie takes out that I hated in the book is how kind of, like, self-hating about geekness it feels. And, like, the ending is similar to the ending of the book, but I read the ending of the book and was like, BS. Like, that ending sucks. We get to a very similar place at the end of the movie, but I buy it more and it feels less cynical.
Because, like, and
it's less self-hating.
The bad guy with the company that's trying to control the Oasis, he's Slugworth. I mean, like, I can make so many parallels.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, absolutely. I mean, like, I'm sure that is in the book a bit, but, like, it feels more critical of the Willy Wonka figure than the movie is.
Yeah, and it's not, like, horribly in your face about it. I think it would be easy for a lot of people to see it and never make that connection. But structurally, and even and even just with what the movie's about, thematically, it is Willy Wonka.
Also, I mean, I'll go with feeling that. Final thoughts. I did not expect to like this movie. I really liked this movie.
And especially as much as you did.
Yeah, as much as I did. Also, I'm gonna say the best use of the F-bomb in a PG-13 movie.
It's wonderful. That's so funny. Actually, and with the thing I was excited to see, and can I spoil my big one?
Sure.
I got Spawn!
Yeah, you did get Spawn!
That was great!
Actually, would you take Jason to see this?
Yeah. Well, I'm actually planning on it. Yeah.
Cool.
Because I know Sarah will like this. Oh, sorry. Earlier we were talking about reasons that trying to articulate why this feels so Spielbergian. A lot of it also is he's got Alan Silvestri here, doing the score, and
there's a lot of real cool stuff with the score.
Did so much. Music from things in this period, including Roger Rabbit and including Back to the Future, and it's really nice that he's there doing the Back to the Future stings, because we've got the DeLorean, and anytime we talk anything remotely about time travel or space and time in this movie, we get Back to the Future stings, and I think it's so cool that Alan Silvestri's putting his own score.
Oh, Doctor Who isn't in this
from Back to the Future into this. Oh yeah, that's interesting too. Yeah, unless it's in there somewhere.
Yeah, it might be somewhere in the background. Who knows? This is the only thing that Christopher Eccleston came back for.
But that's all that's the rest of what I had to say.
I really like that this feels like an 80s movie in that, one, it's a legitimate, like, popcorn movie that is not a superhero film. It's a real tentpole, like, kind of big, epic. It's worth the price of admission, and it's not a superhero movie.
But it's not a movie you could have made back then. It's not like let's just make like completely make one of those. Like you complain about with Stranger Things.
Yeah.
Like it's not that. It has that feel a little bit, but it's very much about right now. Also, it feels real relevant.
Yeah. I really like that. It's a big kind of spectacle blockbuster film by the guy that in some ways kind of created that. In that it's a movie that feels like
would have been a nice send-off for him. Like if he never makes anything else.
Yeah, that's true. True.
That would be the right.
He's still got 2 more Tintin movies to make. He doesn't get to go anywhere. But it's also got kind of an edginess that 80s movies had that
but folks
modern movies don't have.
Sorry, folks that especially loved that book and liked like the tone of it and don't care for this. If they don't have I completely understand that if they don't have the nostalgia for Spielberg that I have.
But that would be weird to love that book and not have the nostalgia, not have nostalgia for Spielberg, because it's so much about that era, and Spielberg permeates everything, even things he doesn't make. Like Spielberg's fingerprints are all over Poltergeist and things like you know what I mean?
But I get the sense, not that I've talked to a lot of people, but just anecdotally, I get the sense that people wanted it to be more video game referencey.
Oh, interesting.
It's kind of the sense I get from some folks,
interesting.
but I don't know. We need to see what our comment section looks like.
Overly video game references. No. I mean, like there's video game references, but if anything, it's 2 video game references because it doesn't reference any modern video games in that book. I don't think.
Oh, really?
Maybe there's a Halo or something,
because there's so much of that in the movie. But, just with the title and the premise, I assumed it was 90% video game stuff.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it is a video game.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. But that's what I'm saying. Like, I figured a lot more of the references would be that. That's why I was so surprised to see things like The Shining.
Yeah. But yeah, I really like this movie. I'm feeling it. It's a good time. Movies you should go. It's maybe the only time in the next 10 years that you're going to get to go see a movie like this that's not a superhero movie. We keep trying, but they always suck, right?
No, that's a really good point. I felt like in with some of the social commentary, it was pretty poignant, but I loved it for just the escapism and the fun I was having too. Like I appreciated that stuff, but it was kind of icing on the cake. Like it made it more thoughtful and made it feel a little bit more character driven, even if I thought the heroes were like inching toward 3-dimensional, but weren't quite getting there.
And you wouldn't,
or at least the main character. Honestly, I think the girl actually kind of transcends that. I think she's more interesting than he is.
No, I agree, and I just not that the guy was bad. She's great. She's great in the human scenes and in the Oasis. Like she's just so good. Actually, it's possible her character's not much more than him. She just elevates it more for me.
Yeah, that's possible too. But there was some nice pathos with like the reason that she was she's going into the Oasis because she has this heroic mentality, and she's trying to save everything, and she's trying to save everyone, and she's all business, but at the same time she does enjoy this stuff, and so she's able to have fun, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah, because she's the one that's the big line about
she's kind of like Wild Style in the Lego movie.
Well, but she has the big line about like you don't care about the real world. But that doesn't mean she doesn't like this stuff. She does like this stuff. She also just has a larger perspective.
She could have been no fun.
Yeah.
You're right, she has a large perspective, but then also she feels weird going out in public, and she has the birthmark thing, and we also could have made that her whole character, and it's not, and I appreciate that.
Oh, and we didn't mention...
I think part of my issue with it, because we haven't talked enough about the protagonist, that's how not fully realized I kind of feel like he is. Like
4 years ago, he was Miles Teller, right?
Probably so, yeah. Like, I'm not saying... That's a good point. I'm not saying I don't like him, like I said earlier, and I think he is... I don't know that he's any more or less drawn than Charlie from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, if we're going to, continue to make that comparison.
Or from E.T.
Yeah.
Or the people in Poltergeist, or...
But my thing with him is, he's almost too, cool and not socially awkward to be paralleled with the game creator at all.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's the whole thing at the end about him not making the same mistake as the creator did with never going after the girl he was interested in, and he's really proactive about pursuing her. That's never an issue. That's never a question.
But
okay,
he's doing it digitally.
That's true, right? But no. But when they finally meet, I still don't get the sense that he's like
That's true.
Too unconfident or has too many insecurities not to go in for the kiss. Nah, I never really bought that. He's not. I'm not saying that he should have been exactly the same personality type, but it might have been smarter, at least in making that idea work, if he was way more confident in the virtual world than he is in the real world. I mean, he's that way, like with his folks, and sorry, with his folks, with his aunt. that whole my mom's sister thing, I think is really funny. But
it takes a moment to sink in. You're like, oh, ha, that's funny.
But I don't know. He's not the typical nerd.
No.
But then at the same time, that can't
exist
in that world. So yeah,
and
that's probably just a second viewing thing. Where maybe that works better on a second viewing, maybe it doesn't.
And we didn't mention them at all.
Lengthy first impressions, but these are first impressions.
His best friend is great.
Yeah.
I would have cut the Asian brothers. They have a little bit more to do in the book, and they have a whole backstory, and it's much darker.
They didn't just need a bigger team, but they don't do much with them.
Yeah. It's like, well, we're not just gonna cut two whole characters from the book, but they didn't get anything to do.
Yeah.
I mean, the little kid was great. There was some fun stuff with that little kid, but I feel like you could have cut them and not lost much. I never felt like they were part of the group.
Yeah, I didn't either.
But his best friend is great.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was our thoughts on Ready Player One.
Surprisingly solid.
Yeah. No, I agree.
So Eric, you saw the sequel to Pacific Rim,
Pacific Rim
I avoided
Uprising.
like the plague because I thought it looked terrible, and the studio wasn't confident in it, and they didn't advertise it right, and I wasn't gonna go until I heard good things about it, and I will wait till video at this point. But what'd you think of it?
I liked it.
Yeah.
So I'm overhead, just general, real general thoughts. I like it. It has all of the flaws of the first film. I loved the first film. Warts and all, that movie's got problems. I love the first film. This movie has all of the same problems. One of the things I was kind of befuddled by was how many people said this is an inferior sequel because look how unfleshed out the characters are, and I was like, that's the biggest problem with the first movie, is none of those characters are fleshed out at all. None of them feel like people.
That's how I felt about it too, but I remember after that came out, a lot of people being like, I'm really surprised by how alive these characters came for me.
Okay.
And I didn't have that.
I don't know I know people that like that movie, I know people that hate that movie. I don't know anyone that disagrees that the characters in the first film, even Guillermo del Toro in the commentary has a story about how he told the guy that plays Raleigh, he's like, there are hundreds of, or there are millions of wonderfully deep and complex and sophisticated characters that have all this nuance to them. Raleigh is not one of those. They're not meant to be.
Yeah.
This has all the same problems. I don't think any of the characters are nearly as fleshed out as they should be, and the cast is too big, and I don't get to know. I don't get there's a bunch of background characters, just like in the first movie. There's the three Asian guys that do the red mech, then there's the Russian guys that do the big lumbering one. It's got the same problem. Like it has all of the flaws of the first film, and then a couple of its own. So I will say I liked the movie. I don't know how much I'm gonna like it. Like I watch Pacific Rim every couple of months. It's a movie I throw on a lot. In the long term, I won't know how I'll ultimately feel about this if I will throw it on as often as I throw on the first film. It has a couple of problems. Mostly, it takes me a little while to get into the movie. The first, 20 minutes or so, I'm not really sure how I feel about the main character. And it has a premise problem. So I saw people complain about the first one, where they were like, why don't they just make big guns? Why do they make giant robots? I'm like, then why see the movie?
Yeah.
You can't have this movie without giant robots.
Kind of
you have to make the leap of logic.
Yeah.
Where I cannot go is that they have continued to make Jaegers, and that there hasn't been a kaiju attack since the first film. We're 10 years later. There has not been a kaiju attack. Not even making Jaegers. There's a Jaeger Academy where you go to train to be a pilot, and a big conflict in this film is there's a corporation that's pushing for, they've developed drone Jaegers, and then there doesn't need to be pilots. Why are we making all this if there are no giant monsters attacking, and it doesn't seem like anyone thinks they're coming back? I don't understand.
Yeah, that doesn't strike me as a conceit that works.
I can't give it to the movie.
No.
I cannot go there.
It just doesn't work with the internal logic of that first movie. They were talking about shutting down that program when there were giant monsters.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
The other problem...
it's an expense issue, right? They cost a lot.
Yeah. The other problem is I don't think the ending of the movie exactly works. We have this wonderful big action set piece at kind of the beginning of the third act, and then so we develop rockets that can propel the Jaegers, because we find out that if you mix something with kaiju blood, it's the most powerful fuel ever. And so they develop rockets that can carry the Jaegers around. The climax of this movie is a giant kaiju is going towards Mount Fuji, and they seal their Jaeger's hand to the rocket, fly up, jump out of the Jaeger, and the Jaeger crashes into the monster. And then basically credits. It doesn't feel like it feels like a pilot.
That's anticlimactic, yeah.
It's really anticlimactic. Those are my big issues with the movie, is it needed a bigger, better ending. But otherwise, I liked it. John Boyega's great.
I was going to ask, yeah.
It's interesting because he's kind of got a Finn thing going on in the beginning, but I completely buy that he is...
Do you mean just in the kind of pseudo bumbling thing?
Yeah,
or?
and it's very much the Finn humor in the beginning of the movie. And then once he gets to the academy, he kind of straightens up a little bit, and he's still a little bit... His character archetype is kind of like the guy that doesn't care about anything. But I completely buy that he's Idris Elba's son, especially when he gets to the speeches. Like he gives a speech. He's like, "I'm not my father, but I'm gonna give a speech. I'm gonna give it my best." And he gives a great speech. And I buy 100% that he's that guy's son.
That's really cool.
The problem is, I don't know why he's Stacker Pentecost's son. There's no reason for the protagonist of this film to
and why
be
he has
his
a normal
son.
person first name. How did
Jake. Stacker Pentecost's son's name is Jake.
How did we do that? We clearly don't name people like that in this universe. I don't understand.
It's also weird because
doesn't everybody have names like that?
Raleigh.
No, you and I talk about that. That's a real name.
Yeah, no, I know, but it's a heightened name. It's not a common name.
You're right, sure.
I can't remember the girl's name now. But the.
Because you remember when we watched that first movie, you were like, "What is it? Is he named after the city?" And then I looked it up and showed you that it's a real name, and here's what it means. Yeah, I don't remember anymore, but
I feel terrible because now I can't remember that character's name. But the female lead of Pacific Rim, I think her name is Miko. Anyways, I was going somewhere with all of that. Her character arc makes less sense, or not her character arc, but Stacker Pentecost's arc makes less sense, knowing that he is a son that was in a Jaeger Academy and got thrown out by him. how does that not come up when you're telling her that she can't pilot a Jaeger?
Yeah.
Like, it's really weird that conversation doesn't happen in the first movie. Scott Eastwood is in this.
It's always strange to retcon, having kids.
Well, and there's also this thing where...
Or to retroactively add, oh yeah, and by the way, this person had children.
And a brother. Like because it's also that girl's brother. And so...
Oh yeah!
So, we pretend like they have a relationship, and I don't really ever believe that. They refer to each other as brother and sister a couple of times, and I don't really buy that. They don't have a chemistry that they've known each other for all this time. And then, one of the big... I'm just going to spoil this movie. I'm sorry. Most people didn't see it. So, I don't feel bad. She dies. And she dies really unceremoniously, and I think it's supposed to be a huge emotional weight to Jake. I don't feel it because I don't believe that they're connected like that.
Yeah.
They don't have enough scenes together to get to that point. And I was really confused because there's a Chinese woman in this, and then when I think her name's Miko, I keep wanting to say Mygo, but that's the giant kaiju book that I reviewed a couple of shows back. When she dies, I was like, oh, can we not have 2 Asian women in our movie about giant robots? Is that what that is? And I was like, but then I realized, oh yes, China saved the first movie. China hates Japan, so it makes sense that you would kind of replace her with a Chinese actress. It's a different character, but I think that was a strategic move.
You think so? That's
yeah,
interesting.
and I didn't know about China hating Japan until I watched Ip Man, and I realized that stemming from World War II, China hates Japan. I didn't know that. I think that was a strategic move, and that's unfortunate because it feels like it's out of nowhere. I think it is out of nowhere. I think they decided to do that because this movie's for China. It's not for us. It's for China. We're hoping it does really well in China so we can make more movies. Because it saved the only reason we have the second movie is
because it's so easy to oversimplify everything with us ignorant Americans and just look at ethnicity and not nationality.
Mm-hmm. There were 2 things I went into this movie where I was like, it doesn't look like these things are in the trailer. There are 2 things I knew Guillermo del Toro said, these are the things that will be in my sequel. And then he left the project.
Right.
And I was like, it doesn't look like either of these 2 things are in the movie. That's really upsetting. Because those are both great ideas. One was Jaeger kaiju hybrids. And the other was Charlie Day was going to be the villain because he drifted with a kaiju. We get Jaeger kaiju hybrids, but not in the way I thought. And it's really cool. So in the trailer you can see that there's 2 Jaegers fighting. They fight that Jaeger. It's a big mystery, who's piloting this?
Oh, cool.
And we think it's the drone people. We think it's a drone kaiju.
Okay.
Or a drone Jaeger.
But there's somebody in it.
And then its head pops open where the people would be, and it's just a big kaiju brain. Just integrated with the circuitry. And then there's these drone kaijus that show up, there's these drone Jaegers that show up, and then they explode, and they're part kaiju. And it's like a sneak attack. And it's really cool. I really like that stuff. And then Charlie Day is secretly the villain the whole time, which is great. He's wonderful. Gets nothing to do in the third act.
Oh.
He gets to stand there and be menacing and be like, yes, go, my monsters! But because the conclusion is so small, it's literally just Scott Eastwood walks up and punches him. and then we get the ending of Independence Day Resurgence, where they're just like, this time we're going after you. I loved that Charlie Day got to be the villain, but I was really disappointed that he didn't. He needed more, and this movie's a half hour shorter than the first one, and the first one's a tight film. I think it's just a little over 2 hours. The movie's a half hour shorter than the first one, and when we got to the point where the movie ended, I was like, okay, cool. There's still going to be a bit more movie. That's not the final climax. There's another one.
They're on to it a bit. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Charlie Day gets punched out, and I was like, oh, this is the end of the movie.
Well, there's a story there.
Yeah.
They
want it to be a trilogy.
Oh, okay.
And they want it to be a trilogy, and apparently the end of the trilogy will open it up to be a Star Wars-esque universe where we can have spin-offs and main films.
That'll never happen.
And what sucks is I think they could, not marketably.
They could if people care.
Yeah, we clearly don't care, but I think the universe is interesting enough.
Sure, yeah.
And if it was a comic book line, I think they could have gotten away with it. It could have been like Hellboy. You could have been a Hellboy slowly build out the universe kind of a thing. Also,
that is a thing that should continue in comics, like IDW or Boom or somebody.
Yeah. Also,
I know somebody's got that license.
A plot problem is that we introduced Charlie Day working for the drone people. He's like this big brain scientist working for the drone company. He's a biologist. Why is he working for a technology company? It doesn't make sense. A lot,
just generically, scientists can do everything.
Well, and the reason he's working there is so that he can like put the kaiju in the like. What's weird is the big reveal is that he's still doing what he's always been doing. He is still a biologist.
Oh, okay. But then why would they put him there?
But why would they have him there in the first place?
Yeah.
And if you didn't know going in, well, I mean, I didn't know going in Charlie Day was going to be the villain. But it's really fun because he seems completely out of character. Like, I was really kind of against him when he first showed up. I'm like, he's not the same person. This is weird.
But that's because...
And then they do the reveal, and I was like, oh, that's awesome. So I enjoyed this movie. I'm not going to say it's great, but I also wouldn't say the first film's great. Like, I love the first movie. I wouldn't describe it as a great movie.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
But I think this one's in the ballpark of the first one. I think it has all the same problems with a couple more. I will watch this movie again. I will probably watch it a number of times. I enjoyed it.
That's good.
I want a third one.
I mean, I didn't see it, but I just at least based on what you're saying, I'm glad if I was wrong.
The biggest problem of the whole movie is that DeKnight is not an experienced film director.
Yeah.
It's fine. It just doesn't have... I don't know. There's like a reverence that
and it's sad that he left
has.
Daredevil to make that.
Yeah.
Because as much as you're saying you enjoyed it...
It's not Daredevil.
Anybody could have directed it.
Yeah. And it's more like quick-cutty. I don't know. It's not the same. I will say, the first movie, I think Guillermo del Toro is in love with the monsters. Like, he likes the Jaegers, and like, he spends time with them. He loves the monsters.
That's his priority.
This movie is much more interested in the mechs. I don't know if that's a script focus or if that's DeKnight personally. Like, he is more interested in the giant robots. This movie's more interested in the giant robots than it is with the kaiju. And it's cool how long we go before we do bring kaiju in. Like we live in a world without kaiju. We don't it doesn't start with and then there's a kaiju attack all of a sudden.
Yeah, that was the status quo 5 minutes later.
Yeah. So I liked it. A lot of people are hating it. I think if you like the first movie, you'll probably like this. Although I'm finding that's not the case.
People are liking it. Yeah.
I think it's fun. I will go with feeling it. It's a light feeling it. It's a lighter feeling it than Ready Player One, but I like it.
Cool. Well, folks, thanks a lot for watching. This concludes today's How We Felt About. Thanks a bunch, and we will see you in a couple weeks. What is the next thing we got to go to the theater and see? I guess I don't even know.
Rampage?
Yeah? Yeah, I guess
I
that's
think Rampage
out.
is the next thing.
And there might be something else.
Well, I think it's Rampage, then we have a week off, and then Infinity War.
And when is Deadpool?
Right after, I think.
Yeah, I guess that's coming up too, isn't it?
Yeah, that's also coming up.
Cool. So look forward to all of that.
Deadpool sequel.
Yeah.
Which is in none of the marketing.
It's not. It is saying Deadpool 2 in a lot of places. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I really thought that they were going to run with that more. I still think it might actually be in the movie. I'm holding hope out.
It seems like maybe a thing they thought of, and the marketing company said no.
No, I think it's backwards. I think it's the thing the marketing's doing.
Oh, you think so?
That Fox is not allowing to be in the title. Well, yeah, because the one place I've seen it is on the website.
Right.
That's marketing.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah, but it's not in any of the trailers. Like, it doesn't seem like the Fox's marketing department is run with that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, but yeah,
it's weird. But
yeah.
Anyway, so
we will never escape big releases.
So that's it with How We Felt About 2, feeling it.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Well, 3. Because we both felt Ready Player One, and then I felt...
Sure,
3 feeling it.
But, boy, and we so rarely flip our signs differently. I wish that happened more often.
That's true.
But,
well, and you know, people say we're always, like, super positive about something, super negative. Super Rim Uprising, kind of middle of the road. Also, started the audiobook. I said last time I was going to listen to the audiobook. I got about 2 hours in. It's really boring. And then
the prequel thing?
Yeah, then Pacific Rim Uprising Ascension. And then
I can't handle that.
And I saw the movie, and it's the background characters. It's not even the formulaic characters that get like a lot of screen time. Like, and there's no kaiju. There's no kaiju for 10 years. So it's just like kids at the Jaeger Academy. Not recommend for the 2 hours of the book I listened to. Well,
anyway, thanks again for watching, folks, and that concludes today's How We Felt About.